is one of the biggest questions people have jumping into their cars after a long day at work or just being out and about. Is that plastic bottle of water okay to drink after sitting in your car all day long, even after several days? Well, there's a new study, and it's giving us a better idea of what you could be being exposed to. Here to discuss that and other health headlines is Dr. Leigh. She's a board-certified emergency physician. She is also the author of the book, Never Let Them See You Sweat. Doctor, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Hena.
Now, just to clarify to our viewers, this has to do with those single-use plastic bottles we commonly see and buy at convenience stores or large packs at those big box stores. What are the concerns about what we're being exposed to when we keep that bottle in our car, get in after a few hours, and just start drinking out of it again?
Yeah, in extreme heat, some of the chemicals from the plastic, which are made from hydrocarbons, can leach. So BPA, bisphenol A, is a dangerous compound that can leach into the water, phthalates. There are some plastic bottles now that are BPA free. But, you know, we're getting so many microplastics in our environment anyway. It's probably better to use an alternative.
Can I ask you, what are those alternatives? What is a safe drinking bottle in that situation?
Well, yeah, stainless steel. We see a lot of people with stainless steel bottles. There are glass coated bottles so that if they fall, maybe they don't break. And glass is a wonderful thing to use, you know, even at home in containers. You don't want to microwave in plastics because it does break down the plastic and it leaches into the food. So those are good alternatives. There are some hard plastics that are dedicated BPA free that are food safe sometimes for temperature variations, which you can look for too.
I'm glad you brought up microwaving plastics as well. That's an important factor. Switching gears here, there is a new study and it talks about floss being used as a vaccine. Talk to me about that. Are injectable vaccines a thing of the past?
Well, it was an interesting study. You're right, Hena. It was. So it's still very early. It was an animal study where they were flossing mice, which seems very difficult to me anyway. Yeah. They were putting antigens or an inactive flu virus on the floss. And in the pockets of our teeth, there is blood flow and absorption. And then they exposed the mice to lethal influenza doses. And the ones that were flossed didn't die of the influenza or get it. So it's still early. In humans, they used a dye to see if it would show up in the bloodstream, and it did. So I understand people are needle averse, and this is a new and novel way that in the future it might be useful if you're worried about needles. But right now, Hena, you can get a flu mist vaccine that you can actually administer at home that goes in your nose. But it is true that's how we get the flu, from our mouth and nasal passages. So it might be a good way in the future to get a vaccine.
But we're a long way off, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it was mostly done in mice. We have a little bit of
All right, last but certainly not least, we talk about this a lot because of our shifts here in the newsroom. We work overnights. But what is the best time to eat your dinner, and how is the timing of your meal correlated to your health? Because a lot of dietitians say it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, so, you know, 3 hours or so, 2 to 3 hours before, you know, the optimal time is probably 5 to 7, which should be at least 3 or more hours if you go to bed at 10 or 11 to get those 7 hours of sleep. Because if you eat too close to bedtime, it, first of all, your blood gets diverted to digest the food. You have sugar spikes, which can affect your metabolism and eventually lead to things like type 2 diabetes. So you really shouldn't do that. Not to mention, a lot of people get reflux. If you eat and you lay down, you know, a lot of acid is churning in your stomach. So you should give yourself that time to digest, maybe even take a little walk after you eat to help you digest. They've shown that that's been very useful and is good for you after you eat.
I only have a few seconds, but I want to ask, but this came up as we were discussing this story. You know, in other cultures, they eat a lot later, you know, maybe 8, 9, 10. They seem very happy. Comparatively, what does that tell us?
Well, I think maybe they stay up later. They have those afternoon siestas in
That's
Spain
what I was
where they're
thinking.
not doing anything. Yeah, Spain is very late to eat. But truthfully, it depends on your circadian rhythm and your culture and how the circadian rhythm is, right? You know, there are holidays, Ramadan, where you can't eat till after sunset.
Sure.
But it's really your circadian rhythms, and you shouldn't eat too close to then going right to bed.
And in those cultures like Spain, they tend to walk a lot more too. So I think that plays a
Exactly.
factor. This is very interesting. Dr. Leigh Vinegar, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
With much of the focus